Nexon have announced access to the demo this Thursday, bringing with it our first hands of experience of Axion as well as the next Descendant coming to the game of Nell. I'm sure a bunch of you are like me and really hyped for what this content launch will bring. I've wanted personally large open maps for this game since it launched, so to finally witnessing it come to be, it's getting to be the game that I've wanted for so long. But in today's video we'll be taking a look at what to expect from the demo, Nell's kit, how to get the most out of her from inside the demo, and just overall insights so that you can enjoy the content as intended. We'll talk of skills, idealistic gear, and much more. So if that sounds good to you, then let's get to it. Now kicking things off, we have some info around the demo itself. Now if you're seeing this video when intended, it's only a matter of hours until that game is going to be either in maintenance and then going to be back up 7 hours later. Now maintenance will be starting at 5 AM GMT on the 24th of July and then going to be back online at 12 PM the same day. And of course during those 7 hours that game is going to be unavailable, so it's not even worth the hassle of logging in, but keep in mind that the last bunch of patches have ended early, so there is a good chance that you won't have to wait as long. Now that is pure speculation on my part, I don't have the insider information, but just keep your eyes peeled on the socials for more info on the day. Now when the game is back up and running, we should all have access to get into Axion. This can be done on the game title screen near the bottom and should be a button labelled Season 3 Breakthrough Axion Demo. Now clicking this should take us into the pre-prepared content. As for what that is, it's anyone's guess. My hopes are to see Nell to her fullest extent, along with the ability to try out different ways of playing her, along with Wall Crasher and all of Axion. Now in my eyes, the more the better, but we'll see when the drops and what we're given. Now as for why you should give the demo a go, and it's not just ignore it, well Nexon have prepared a few rewards to tease you in for that new content, with one set for booting it up, one set for playing to completion, and another for doing the survey straight afterwards. So let's take a look as to what you can get for your time. Reward 1 is for just taking part in the demo and earns you the Axion Spearhead box, a reward containing 3 million gold, 300,000 Kuiper shards, 1 catalyst, 2 titles and 3 bike paints ready for their release. Now that last part did concern me a little, as Nexon are introducing another set of specific paints, meaning the ones that we have so far can't be used for the bikes. Now that does make 3, so obviously we've got the hair dye, we do have the outfit colours as well as now the bikes, and of course I am reading between the lines a little bit here and could absolutely be wrong, but the fact that it is bike specific and the fact that they named it as such just kind of sucks to me. I have an abundance of odd paints that I'd love to be able to use, but it sounds like that just won't be the case. Either way, the rewards are still pretty nice for just booting the demo up, so even if you wish to keep Season 3 mostly a surprise, it is absolutely worth booting up for those resources. Reward 2 is dropped when completing the demo, so it looks like we won't have an unlimited amount of time inside of Axion for now, so don't expect Outriders level of demo right here. Now completing the demo does drop you another catalyst, 1 spoils box, which is fantastic for a lot of players right now, and one of each type of the 1 hour boost in the game. Not the craziest stuff to be able to get, but the spoils box will reduce that grind for a lot of players, so once again, worth that investment in my opinion. And then lastly we have Reward 3, which is the smallest of the drops, but in theory is just about as simple as booting the demo up. Now after completing the demo you will get a pop-up in-game to participate in the survey. Completing this with your feedback will give you 1 more catalyst, bringing you to a total of 3 for free. Now overall that's not bad for free rewards just for trying out the new content, so keep your eyes out for that button when you log in tomorrow. Now as for Nell, she will be dropping as a non-attribute Descendant with a mixture of tech and fusion across abilities. Now right off the bat we can see that Secret Garden, Blue Beetle and Peacemaker are going to be great stat sticks that she can use, but without access to her crit rate stats it's a bit difficult to predict where she's going to land and which is going to be best in slot for her to use. So let's take a look at the skills that she possesses and see what we're dealing with first, but before I do I want to give a huge shout out to the user of Nell's OF for these infographics that they made. I am sorry that I had to shorten it, I believe YouTube has something in place to stop that word being said, and then it just kind of applies demonetization to the channel, even if it is just kind of for the memes, but you can see it on the screen anyway. Now I'm going to start with Nell's passive, as usually a lot of Descendants can be figured out based on what they can specifically get used for. In the case of Nell, we're looking at Suspicion and Insight. How this one works is that when we use our Deceive, you know, that mechanic that people forgot about to find weak points and vaults, well, on a cooldown we'll be applying that scan as a debuff for up to 8 enemies, and this increases based on our range times 40%. Now while the debuff is active, any hits with a 0.1 second cooldown will be doing additional skill power damage times 100%, and from how this is worded we can either land weapon hits or skill hits and that extra damage will be applying. It's likely that we can increase this modifier too, similar to how we can with VS's orbs, so it is going to be worth that skill power investment as well as going into cooldown and range for the mobbing side of things. Now this could be pretty deadly for bossing 2 with the effect applying to weak points on Colossi if your target is one of those when the scan happens, and in which case range will no longer be needed, but heavy modifier and skill power investment will make this much more potent. Overall this sounds like a tamer version of Serena's skill 4, but I'm interested to see what we can make work with this. Now skill 1 is called Breach Discharge, a tech ability with 2 charges, low MP cost and relatively low cooldown. Now the text tells us that it fires a barrage of breach shards just to deal damage, however when hitting enemies scanned with the Asceve, like our passive, we'll be dealing 100% more damage, and that is not modified. From what I can tell, it is literally just a flat 100% more damage, and then reduce our skill 4 cooldown by 0.25 seconds and gain splash damage for 200% more of our skill power in a smallish radius. Now overall I can see this being an okay skill to spam out with enough cooldown investment along with Secret Garden due to those pest stacks, but with max investment we can hit our cap at 1.3 second cooldown per stack, and the Asceve bonus with the additional damage could be pretty tasty for farming. I'm looking forward to using this one a fair bit. Skill 2 on the other hand gives us Ring of Breach and is our first fusion ability, opening up the possibility of running Nell crit if she has the right base stats. Now casting this one will create an arcade breach at the location, reducing enemy movement speed by up to 50%, as well as increasing the weak point damage by up to 35%, and that is an additive bonus. That's quite important because that means that we can start running weak point modules on most of our weapons, and Nell is going to be granting some really nice bonuses to pretty much every single weapon. Now I can see this being especially useful for landing harder to hit shots or for absolutely bursting down an elite, making weapons much more easier to use with modules, things like Real Life Fighter, but the ability does have a second use, so when you're casting again this recalls the breach, causing damage over time where it existed, as well as refunding cooldown based on the duration that's left. Now overall I can see this having some fun applications, not necessarily as a huge damage dealer, but working in tandem with either the skill 1 or that of Nell's firearms. Skill 3 is Graphitic Reversal, and it's a bit of an awkward one to be able to say because it doesn't look like that's how it's supposed to be, but this is another fusion ability. This is making Ring of Breach into a heavy damage dealing skill, and can only be cast when Ring of Breach seems to be deployed, and casting this will then cause the breach to pull enemies towards the centre, and then explode for a whopping 2100% skill power, essentially making this a power crept version of Lepic's Traction Nade, able to do the suck and blow. Wait. Once again, with low cooldowns, this could be a fantastic mobbing ability, perfect for getting Nell leveled up, but we'll see its usefulness when we get to try her out. And then lastly we have skill 4, which is called Gaze of the Abyss, granting Nell a buff similar to how Enzo's Focus Fire mod works for the duration side of things, but upon activating we get 8 seconds of Abyssal Gaze, granting 35% weak point damage bonus, but when hitting a scanned target with a breach charge from your skill 1, you'll also be getting 0.3 seconds added back into your duration, up to a maximum of 30 more seconds, so I believe this can hit a cap of 38 if that's the way I'm reading this. It's either going to be 30 or 38, it depends on how the wording actually comes out for the final build. Now personally, while the rest of Nell's kit sounds interesting to use, her skill 4 just seems a tad underwhelming, at least on paper. That weak point damage is fine, but it is a multiplicative boost, meaning that we won't see as much of an increase compared to it being additive like we did when it came to like skill 2 with the Breach Discharge. Now I can see the synergy of how this is all supposed to work, of scanning a stubborn target, breach them in place and slow, activate skill 4, and while you're spamming her skill 1 you burst down that weak point. Something about this just sounds a little bit clunky to me, but I'm hoping that's not the case in practice, so we'll have to give that a bit of testing when she's available. Now coming in at the gear wise, looking at the rest of the kit as to what we've just covered, 2 skills deal fusion damage while one of hers as well as the passive deal that of tech damage. Now I could absolutely see a case being made either way here, but that passive in combination with the AoE her skill 1 can do, combined with the low MP cost and the low cooldown, I could absolutely see a tech build being ran for her and doing quite a bit of work, especially in a mobbing scenario. Secret Garden combined with a non-attribute and tech reactor, rolls of either skill cooldown with a ratio or going into crit damage if her stats lean that way, could absolutely make her a very strong offensive character. On the other side, Fusion Reactor would give us more damaging breaches and explosions, which my first thought gravitated towards that of Purge runs. Suck up a group, then form their spawns into one area, either shoot with a strong gun to the weak point or detonate it for high explosive damage, and then rinse and repeat could be a viable strategy. Components wise, non-attribute means that we're looking at mages to begin with, potentially rotating to that of a 2x Hunter and 2x Shell Crusher if we find that our weapon buffs are the better of the bunch to run. Overall, pretty flexible, but it's worth the testing to see what works best in her case. And with that, it pretty much wraps up on the news that we have so far. Nell sounds interesting in the most part, but unless there's something I'm missing, she won't be pushing top tier and scaring Bunny, Inez or Serena anytime soon. That said though, she does sound like a very fun hybrid build, using both firearms and skills to get that job done, of which we don't see too many or too often inside of this game. Now, will she be needed for wall crusher clears, and will she be worthy of purge runs? Only time will tell, but I can see her being fun to play at the very least. And so this is a section I want to hear from you. What are your current thoughts on Nell's kit? Do you agree with me that a skill 4 sounds a little lackluster? And lastly, will you be booting up the demo once it goes live? Let me know all that and more down below. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. As I always say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on our next video.